I read Tom Brady's book, so you don't have to. Or you don't have to look at that crazy cover. Tom Brady claims his workouts are the key to his long and healthy career. This and more coming up. I'm Mark. This is TrainAllSports. Let's go. What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the channel that goes over the little things that make big differences in your overall physical abilities. One of those things that we can count on in life is getting older.
Bud, your sister's getting older now, and she'll naturally be going out with boys.
And getting older requires different strategies to maintain our health and performance. And all of us, we know, have hit plateaus, and there are many different methods of breaking plateaus like bro splits, undulating periodization, the French contrast method, and so on. But unlike any of those, Tom Brady has a completely different approach that he claims has kept him playing longer at the highest level without injury, aside from the ACL or MCL, whatever it was years ago. And I mean, he's the GOAT, so let's be real, he must be doing something right. And we should listen when someone of that caliber says how they work out. Now, I want to emphasize the first part about injury. He has played a lot without injury almost his entire career. And from right now, from my experience, I know that most of you or the people you know who are playing at the highest levels, and mark my words, injury will be the main cause that cuts your career short or force many of you watching this video to cut back or slow down your workouts. And if not you, it'll be your friends. But according to Tom Brady,
it doesn't have to be that way.
The main premise of his book works around this branded term called pliability. Essentially, at its core, pliability is the softening of the muscle tissue so it can absorb and transfer force. Now, don't get that wrong with not having firm or strong muscles. So instead of it being strong and hard muscles, I want you to think of like brittle. So instead of the brittle muscles, now you have strong and soft muscles. Think of it kind of like brittle and malleable. The muscles can perform when they're relaxed, but their ability to stretch and move around and transfer energy through that material, which is your muscle, is heightened when there is pliability. So therefore, the overall stress on your body, according to Tom Brady, or the TB12 method, is when having this pliability involved in your workouts to soften these muscles. And to achieve this, you must do some forms of different types of work, like soft tissue work, while performing a muscular contraction. So let's explore the pliability thing a little deeper, because everything that Tom Brady talks about in his book, the TB12 method, centers around the concept of softer muscle tissue. Now's a great time to subscribe to the channel. Essentially, the claim is that when you're younger, your body has this natural pliability built into it. And as you get older, that pliability begins to slow down till eventually it almost goes away. Now, here's the important thing. As you continue to lift weights over time, you begin to lose your natural pliability and make your muscles more brittle at a faster pace. So that means if you're working out and you're lifting, you're going to lose your natural pliability faster.
Look like Gumby on steroids.
Now, I'm using the word brittle here, and that's not in the book, but I think it's a really good way to contrast exactly what the TB12 method is alluding to. So when you think of your muscles like brittle, they mean hard and easily breakable, right? And they think about like long, soft, but still strong. It's a little different, and I think it helps us understand. So when I say brittle, I don't mean that their muscles are going to snap. I just mean in terms of contrasting with the type of muscle tissue that they're alluding to in the book. So moving forward, his claim that is the constant weightlifting without pliability ultimately ends in injury and poor performance, much sooner than it really needs to be. And nothing horrible, there's something horrible about cutting your career short because of injury, or that you have to taper back your workouts because of injury. So in order to stop this from happening, you have to slowly replace your weightlifting with pliability training as you get older. But that trade-off here depends on what your ultimate goal of weightlifting is. So see, for the TB12 method, the main point of weightlifting is to get your body to perform at a particular level and perform a particular task. So you must think about how much raw strength you need to perform at the level that you need to perform that task. I hope that makes sense. For Tom Brady as a quarterback, he needs to have a certain level of strength to throw a good ball, or spin it, as they say, and he needs to maneuver around the pocket well without getting sacked, right? So there becomes a point in very quickly where weightlifting has diminishing returns. You don't need that to do those things. So the answer for this TB12 method is replacing the weightlifting with regular resistance bands. But not just regular movements on resistance bands. The TB12 method uses full body explosive exercises basically until burnout, and they really only do one set. So when this coupled with the pliability work that we talked about before, that's really Tom Brady's secret sauce of the TB12 method. The resistance bands act like a sliding scale against your weight training. As you get older, you add more resistance bands and you take away more of heavy weight training. So think about a 20-year-old would need more weightlifting because of their natural pliability, but a 30-year-old would need to start adding more resistance bands in to replace the weightlifting so you can maintain this pliability. Now, to be honest, the book doesn't really go into any detail about how this whole thing would develop at an individual level. For instance, if you're a soccer player, you would have no idea like where to start with weights or when to replace them with resistance bands because the book is about Tom Brady. Honestly, it's almost like a branding book for Tom Brady.
I'm over here busy trying to build my brand as a successful entrepreneur.
And the book has a lot of fluff and marketing material, and I think this is a way for him to like reach out. I mean, right now it's 2022 and this was I think 2017, but it's still definitely worth a read if you can get your hands on it. I got it for free from a friend, or if you can get it from the library, or if you don't mind spending how much ever it's worth. I don't even know what it was back in 2017. It says $30 US. So it's a good read, but there's no research studied backed into it if that's your thing. But I really think that's okay because listen, qualitative research is important and has a lot of valid answers too. I mean, someone who's performed at the level he has and says that it works, you have to kind of think about it. Even if some scientist at a university hasn't particularly studied Tom Brady's muscle tissue, that doesn't mean what he's saying doesn't work. And this is coming from someone who deals with data and data science on a daily basis. So I think a lot of the pliability theory of energy transfer in softer muscle tissue kind of passes the initial logic test. And that's important to understand because now we can kind of build upon it on our own experiences and kind of contrast it with Tom Brady's and really build something that's different and new that doesn't necessarily need, at this point, the quantitative information. I also think that weightlifting causing you to become overly tense and stiff and more prone to injury also passes the common sense test. I mean, I remember it wasn't too long ago in the 1980s when weightlifting really took off and through college and high school levels that there was a lot of concerns about injury of young athletes from lifting heavy weights. So I think there is something to this TB12 method that they're hitting on, and I believe there are real beneficial traits that it has, even though it hasn't been through the stress test of quantitative research. But I believe anyone can really supplement with the weights, with the bands, and do soft tissue work and really feel immense benefits. I mean, lengthening the muscle is known to help any and pretty much everything, including weightlifting, instead of causing these dense, tight muscles, right? So go out and give it a try for a few months. And personally, I've tried some of it and it works really well. I feel great. I'm glad I decided to taper down some of the weight training and add the bands. I can work out more often. I'm definitely not as sore because I'm not weightlifting, and I've gained a lot of flexibility. And I can wake up in the morning, a little less stiffness. Actually, I say a lot less stiff. But I want to know the really important part is I found myself jumping higher, running faster. I throw a baseball harder than I could while I was just focusing on the weight training. So yeah, I believe that you can get something out of the TB12 method or theory as well, even though some people think it might be nonsense. But, you know, be your own judge and don't be afraid to experiment. Believing means achieving. I will see you when you come back.